Once the decision to sell the house comes up in a divorce, most people assume things should feel finally clear. But this is usually the moment confusion actually increases, because now there's a decision without a roadmap yet. That's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's because selling a house during a divorce isn't just putting a sign in the yard and waiting for offers. There's a sequence to how this works. And when that sequence isn't explained up front, people end up reacting instead of planning. So today, I'm going to walk you through what happens from a real estate standpoint once selling is being considered. Not the legal side, not settlement agreements, just the property process, step by step, so you know what's coming before it even happens. My role here is helping homeowners understand the housing decisions, timing, preparation, pricing, and coordination. Legal questions belong with attorneys. Financial strategy belongs with financial professionals, because the property, it touches on all of these areas. The process works best when each professional handles their part and communication stays clear. That keeps the home from becoming the source of additional conflict and keeps decisions focused on the property outcome rather than personal positions. So here we go. Step 1, clarity before action. The first real estate step has nothing to do with photos or paperwork. It starts with clarity. Understanding what the home is realistically worth in today's market, what condition it is in, and what timing options exist. This also goes beyond what an online estimate shows. Automated values can be helpful as a starting point, but real pricing comes from comparing truly similar homes, not just nearby ones. Conditions, layouts, upgrades, timing, they all matter, which is why we look at apples to apples comparisons rather than broad averages. For example, I've seen two homes on the same street have very different outcomes simply because one entered the market based on estimate and other based on comparable sales and condition adjustments. The difference wasn't the neighborhood. It was how the starting point was established. Once value is clear, conversations tend to shift from emotional to practical. Another piece that surprises most people early on is the mortgage. Many homeowners assume that the house decision automatically determines the loan outcome, but it usually is the other way around. Whether one person keeps the home, refinances, buy the other out, or the property is sold, the existing loan often dictates what is actually possible and what timelines are needed to be respected. Understanding payoff amounts, potential penalties, and whether both parties remain financially tied to the property is something that should be clarified before any listing decisions are finalized. When this step is skipped, people make plans later that they have to be undone, which adds stress, delay, and sometimes costs. If it would help to see how all these decisions connect before you're right in the middle of them, I put together a free on-demand workshop where I walk you through the full roadmap homeowners typically face. You can watch it anytime. The link is in the captions. Okay, so now we're on step 2, aligning on a plan. After value and timing are understood, the next step is alignment around process, not agreement on everything. Alignment on how the sale will function. That includes how preparation decisions will be handled, how communication will happen during the sale, and how expectations around the listing itself are documented. Before the home goes active, from a real estate standpoint, structure matters more than people expect. When expectations are clear up front, fewer decisions feel personal later. Step 3, listing with intention. Listing a home during a divorce works differently than a typical listing. The goal isn't testing the market. It's creating a predictable response from it. Pricing should be grounded in data. Preparation should be practical, and timing should reflect real life transitions and not just the calendar. Today, home buyers are highly comparison driven, so how a home enters the market often matters as much as the home itself. A neutral, structured approach keeps the focus on the outcome rather than past disagreement. Step 4, showings and offers. Once the home is live, the pace usually picks up, showings begin, feedback comes in, offers may arrive quickly or take some time. This is where understanding the mechanics helps most. Buyer feedback access, consistency, and presentation all influence the negotiating position. When people understand how offers are compared between timing, terms, net outcomes, decisions become less reactive and more intentional. And step 5, contract to closing. After an offer is accepted, many assume the hard part is over. But from a real estate perspective, this phase requires the most coordination. There are still several decision points ahead: inspections, value verification, and final terms, and knowing these stages in advance prevents surprises. Clear communication and preparation during this stage keeps the process moving rather than restarting negotiations late in the timeline. So the takeaway is this: selling a house during a divorce isn't simple, but it's predictable when everybody stays in their role. Clarity doesn't remove emotion, it removes unnecessary chaos. After understanding the process, the next question people usually ask is, how much do we actually need to do to the house without overspending or creating more tension? And that's what we'll cover next: how to prepare the house for sale during a divorce in a way that's strategic, practical, and focus on return, not perfection. Click the video on the screen to watch now.